Thank you for your patience. We're waiting for a couple more members to hopefully join, so thank you. All right. Good evening and welcome to the February 22nd, 2023 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Stephen Spur and I'm Chairman of the Summit Zoning Board. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast on Summit's government channel, which is Comcast 34 and Verizon channel 30. Please note that fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it after our meeting. Andy Ball is the zoning board's attorney. He will advise board members on matters of law and is the key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on the applications. Stephanie Sulios is a city employee and the zoning board secretary. Ms. Sulios assists applicants with the preparation of their applications, planning our meetings, and keeping our meeting minutes. Ms. Sulios does not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes to be approved. You'll be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. Ms. Sulios, will you please call the roll of the members?
Sure. Chairman Spur?
Here.
Vice Chairman Steiner?
Here.
Mr. Mullen is expected but not yet present. Mr. Millay?
Here.
Ms. Toth?
Here.
Mr. Loikitz is excused for the evening. Ms. Newell is excused for the evening. Mr. Gonzalez is excused for the evening. Ms. Sager is also excused for the evening. Mr. Feskins is expected but not yet present. Mr. Yuko?
Here.
You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Excellent. We generally hear the applications in the order they are listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but do understand that some applications are too complex to be heard within that time frame. Each hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once board professionals and board members have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about the application. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the interested public have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we enter into executive session where board members discuss the application and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in our discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If an application requires additional information or testimony that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your application to another date and it will not be decided during this meeting. Krista Anderson, the city zoning officer, has asked that I remind all applicants that they must carefully read the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will necessitate additional follow-up from zoning and other city staff. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the application. Before we run through the agenda, if you'll please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll run quickly through the list of applications this evening, a little out of order as there's been some shuffling undergoing recently. I think first we'll hear from 47 Parkview Terrace, represented by Mr. Weber. I believe are you carrying this evening that application?
Yes, 47 Parkview is not our application.
I'm sorry,
14.
14 Park, Franklin.
14 Franklin, yes.
Right, we'll have you up here real quick then,
Want
please.
me now?
We'll have you now, because I think that's the only application this night for you, is that correct?
14 Franklin is requested to be carried.
Right.
We will have 4 witnesses, and I expect that the direct presentation would take at least 2 hours. So in order for the board to be able to manage its calendar appropriately and not to overwhelm the board, we ask that it be carried. I think that the date that has been selected was May 1st, and understood that will be the only thing on for that night. So I would request that it be carried to that date without further notice. We extend the time within which the board may act on the matter.
Excellent. Any questions from the board? Very considerate of you not to spend the whole evening with us tonight, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's anyone here interested in 14 Franklin, I'm happy to meet with them outside.
Okay. Is there anyone here at the moment for 14? So you may want to speak with Mr. Weber out in the lobby after we just move that motion, but he'll be able to give you a little more detail on the application. So with that, understanding that the applicant's attorney is waiving the time with which we have to act, do we have a motion to carry this application to May 1st?
I'll move to carry it to May 1st.
Okay, in a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Excellent.
members of the board.
All right. Now we'll just quickly run through the remaining 3 applications. First, we could have Paul or Dana Stern just come quickly, just to the front here. And just quickly, just want to get a good understanding how many witnesses you have for us.
2 experts.
2, and no attorneys you'll be presenting?
attorney.
You know land use a little bit?
A little bit.
A little bit, all right. Grab a quick seat, we'll run through just quickly the other applicants. Next would be Ruth Ann Blankenheim, 26 Edgewood Road. If you just come up just for a quick moment. Hello.
Hello.
Do you have an attorney with you this evening, or
I do not.
any expert
Just
witnesses?
me, no experts.
Oh, okay, all right. Heavy lift, but that's okay, you'll do great. Grab a seat, we'll get you second. And then we're going to skip over again 14 Franklin Place, 47 Parkview Terrace would be the 3rd application we hear tonight. Do we have a representative? Hello.
Hi, I'm Lauren Davis. I am appearing for my parents, Desmond and Vivian Randall. I'm also a resident of Summit. I live around the corner from 47 Parkview at 10 Highland Drive. And I have my architect with us.
Excellent. Any other witnesses with you this evening?
No.
All right, wonderful. Grab a seat, watch the show. We'll have the Stearns then up first for 46 Hartley Road. All right, Mr. Stern, we're going to...
Should we note the vote requirement first, just as a heads up?
Sure, Andy, what's on your mind?
Just at the moment, we only have 5 board members present. If we start this application now, because you require a D variance, you would require all affirmative votes to approve the application. I just want to make you aware of that fact and confirm if you do want to proceed at this point.
It's fine.
Okay. All right. In light of that,
We'll
I'll
swear
swear you
you
both in. If you could each raise your right hand, do you swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And one at a time, please state your name, spell your last name.
Paul Stern, S-T-E-R-N.
Dana Stern, S-T-E-R-N.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Stern, Mrs. Stern, whoever would like to just give us a brief introduction to the case
Sure.
and what you're looking for tonight.
Good evening, members of the zoning board. I want to thank you for your time and dedication to the city. My name is Paul Stern. This is my wife, Dana. We live at 46 Hartley Road with our 7-year-old daughter, Macy, a thriving 2nd grader at Washington. We moved to town almost 6 years ago and truly love calling Summit home. Our house was built new construction in 2017, although we had no input in the design of the house after purchasing it from the builder. I'll let Andrew Clark and John Lyons, my experts, go over the details, but we are seeking 2 minimal variances to enhance the usability of the house. We're seeking a less than 2% increase in the building coverage and a 4% increase in FAR to replace the current deck with a screened-in porch with an adjacent patio. The property will still conform to code for lot coverage below the 35% threshold. On the heels of the pandemic, we wanted to increase the indoor-outdoor space at the house. The current deck in the rear of the house that we have is only usable a small amount of time. Between the trees that overhang the house that constantly drop sap, acorns, etc., makes it challenging to spend any real amount of time on the deck. If granted approval, we will ensure that the aesthetics of the porch will match not only the existing house, but also that of the neighborhood. The second request that we have relates to our driveway. Currently, we have an S-shaped egress on the right side of the driveway, looking at the house from Hartley Road. That frankly is causing damage not only to the garage, but also the grass and Belgian blocks where the curb cut is. The S-shape causes a pretty steep turn into the driveway when approaching from Woodland, when another car is parked on that opposite side of the driveway. This causes guests or delivery trucks to routinely pop over the Belgian block and onto the grass. In addition, entering and exiting the driveway from that side of the driveway is challenging, requiring a very sharp turn not to hit the curb. Too sharp and you hit the side of the garage, not sharp enough and you hit the curb. This has cost considerable amount of money to replace and repair rims to my car, as well as paneling to the right side of the garage. If I look around my neighborhood, increasing the size of the driveway by a few feet is consistent with other driveways in the neighborhood, including a recently constructed home on Hartley at 31 Hartley, mid-block down the street that has 22 feet at the street, 22 feet wide at the street. With that, I can either answer any questions you have for me or turn it over to Andrew Clark to go over the grading plan, which I know that Dipty had some questions on.
Cool. Any questions from members of the board? Mr. Stern? No? Good. Dipty, maybe we'll hold you until Mr. Clark. And then I would just note that for the record, and the court reporting is being done over the video and audio system here, there doesn't appear to be any members of the interested public for this application. If somebody sneaks in the middle, we'll make sure they have an opportunity to ask questions. Otherwise, we'll let you guys grab a seat. We'll call Mr. Clark. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Andrew Clark, C-L-A-R-K-E.
Any changes to your credentials since the last time you were here?
No. As you indicated or suggested, I have appeared before this board with some frequency. Also lately, more recently in front of the planning board with some minor subdivisions and numerous other local towns, but my license is still in good standing.
I imagine we would like to accept you once again.
We will. You have better attendance than some board members, but I won't name them, so that's okay. Welcome back, Mr. Clark. Thank you. So I have on this board is the plan as submitted. Move a little bit closer, there doesn't seem to be any public that's here to see it. Briefly, I'll describe the existing and the proposed conditions. I conducted the survey, and by way of a little background, I also did the work for the new house that was constructed in 2016, 2017. So I, however, resurveyed the property because I had never done a proper as-built, certainly not with topography at the end of the construction project. So I conducted a new survey of the property. The property consists of the dwelling in the center of the property, the driveway as described previously, and there's a deck in the back that comes down to just a landing, and all the way back is a shed at the back of the property. The site grades from essentially southeast to northwest, so sort of in this direction across the property in terms of the surface runoff and the drainage. At the time of the new construction, dry well was constructed in the front yard, and the perk rate was verified. I did the perk test for that as is normal in Summit during any project like that. I'm not aware of, and speaking with the current owners, of any kind of drainage problems that have resulted in the wake of that installation. So it seems to be functioning as designed and normally. What we're proposing to do is remove the deck in the back and in the shaded area here, introduce a screen porch area, and then have some steps down to the east to a new patio that'll be just, on the right side of that. The way this is situated is that this lot 1 here, this is more of like their backyard. So there's a pretty good buffer between our property and the neighbor. There's some vegetation along the fence on both sides. It's fairly well screened. So the position of the patio is a little bit more private in terms of its use, not only for the occupants, but also for the neighbors. The dry well in the front, as I noted on the plan, in my opinion, is sufficient to handle the new roof area that's introduced. And I think, by way of some background, it may not have been as clear in my note. but there was obviously a permitting effort that happened in the new house, which of course I did, so I have a lot of background on that. And so what my note is explaining is that at the time that we did the new house in 2016, 2017, Summit's normal stormwater management paradigm is to take whatever the increase in lot coverage is and manage that so that there's no increased runoff from any work that's done. In the case of the new house, I usually go substantially beyond that as a practice. I think it's just a good idea, and it's a great opportunity to do it when you're constructing a new house. So we had, I think, as I noted, something like 572 square feet that we had increased at that new construction phase in 2016. And what I actually designed for and that the drywall is sized for is almost 2,800 square feet of managed area. So we went far beyond what we would have been required at that time. What my note points out is that we're now increasing another 600 and something square feet, 615, which that results in a net total increase from the pre-construction of the new house of I think 1,275 or thereabouts, 1,254 square feet. So if you compare to just before the new house was built, we would have had to manage 1,254 square feet for this plan if it was part of the new construction. But what we provided was for 2,775 square feet of management. So in my opinion, there's more than enough in-place stormwater management to handle the roof leaders from this new screen porch area, route them into the tank, and should satisfy Summit's regulations and practical application. So that's just a clarification on some of the stormwater aspects that were brought up in your review. I think it was well described with regards to the driveway, what the issue is. I think you can see here on the proposed condition, if we bring that driveway straight out on the right side there and get rid of that little swish that's there, it creates a much more effective and efficient functional driveway in terms of just pulling in and out for residents, deliveries, visitors, and what have you. But of course, the ordinance doesn't permit that width at the street. It's just under 20 feet. I think it's like 19 feet 10 inches, which is what the existing is at the garage. So I think while it deviates from the ordinance, I don't think it's problematic in any way. And as was brought up by Mr. Stern, there are other properties in the neighborhood that do have a similar wide entrance for the front-facing two-car garage that you would see in a lot of these properties due to the narrower lot width. So I think that covers the comments, the primary comments that you had in your review, unless there's something else you wanted to go over.
The one question is the stormwater management note on the plan notes 682 square feet for this plan that's proposed as an increase. And I think the difference from just the zoning table calculation was 615. Can you
Right,
confirm?
because it's I'm comparing it to what was done before. So if you add then the 682 to the 572, that's where you have the 1254.
Okay,
So that's the net increase from the pre-construction of the new house.
okay.
So it's that 682 is not the actual increase that we're registering on this project. It's slightly different because I'm comparing it back to the construction project from 2017.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to follow.
I honestly got in the habit of
Yeah.
doing that because
Okay.
the new ordinance
Yeah.
now actually has sort of a look-back provision in terms of coverage.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make sure to relate it back so that we have the full picture.
Okay, so I would request some calculations because I don't have any understanding of what was sized for
Right.
that particular dry well.
Right.
And possibility of the soil tests that were done as part
Sure,
of the
I mean,
condition. Yeah.
would it be
Yeah.
acceptable to provide you with the approved grading plan from that construction
That's totally fine.
and the perk test that was done?
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
can give you
yeah.
copies of that, no
Yeah,
problem.
but thank you for the clarification of the
Yeah.
difference in numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul, in
your head.
Yeah.
Press it. Scary. Scary, yes. Okay. Anything else, Dip, do you want to flag?
No, I think we were good.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
substantially, I think you had mentioned about changes in grades, but really there are no notable grade changes that are going to take place as the site grading is intact and sufficient as it is. We don't need to grade up or down just to accommodate the new patio and the screen porch. So there should be minimal disturbance outside of just creating the footings for the porch.
So the roof leaders will connect, but will you connect also, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask this, but the roof leaders will connect from this proposed screen porch? It's just not shown on the proposed plan?
Right,
Okay.
right. The roof leaders
Yeah.
are in place
Okay.
around the dwelling
Yeah.
now
Alright.
from the original construction.
Right.
So they'll just take and tie them directly into the piping that's adjacent.
Okay, and then whatever, the silt fence, just to be adjusted around that cold disturbance?
Right.
Yeah, that'd be great,
No
yes.
problem. Any questions from the board? Mr. Clark?
I just have one, which maybe I should have asked the applicant, so I apologize for not asking it sooner. The forester noted the need for rear yard screening to Lot 1 and Lot 3 being recommended. I don't know, do you want to address that to the applicant, or do you,
Well, so he talked lot 1 is to the right here. So he's suggesting that perhaps some screening along this fence line would be beneficial.
so, sure, it's fine, I mean, I believe you're committed to that, but I think we need more detail on that, something you want to submit to the forester.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd use a landscaping plan, that's a little
Yeah.
hefty, but.
So the, I guess, lesser version of that condition would be the applicants will confer with the city forester about screening, subject to his approval.
You'll see it in the draft
For
resolution. you
for
can
those
tweak it.
two lots.
For one-
Between
the
lots
Two-
1 and
The
3.
two lots that are
Yes.
identified, not anywhere else.
Right, unless you want to see it anywhere else.
Is his concern over, do you, Mr. Stern, believe the forester's concern over screening to be that there's light kind of being cast or projected from the rear? You have wild, crazy parties that I need to steer my children away from? No? Okay.
Well, it did look kind of scrubby against Lot 1, so thank you for bringing that up. Ms. Yeah,
That fence was there predates the house.
Right.
And it's in pretty disrepair.
Tired,
yeah.
In fact, the storms of the last few weeks have knocked a couple sections of the fence out, and I do believe that my neighbor is going to be replacing it. So,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it is their fence, the neighbor's fence.
yeah, it was there.
But yeah,
It was there
it's definitely
before we
weary.
moved in.
But there's nothing to do with control of stormwater management, erosion, anything to
No,
that
I
effect,
think
right?
the
It's
fence is
just
like
visual
30
screening.
years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you indicated, just meeting with the forester
Yeah,
will
that's fine.
probably do the trick
Yeah.
and get an answer from your neighbors about the fence
Yeah.
replacement. That might actually solve it and not cost
Yeah.
you a dime, which would be nice.
yeah.
That always helps.
And sorry, Mr. Stern or Mr. Clark, if you mentioned the shed, sorry. Yeah, there's a shed right in the
Yeah,
back.
we're gonna keep that.
You're keeping it?
Yeah, I think there was just some miscommunication in the application.
There was some discussion about the shed was going.
My data reflects it as remaining in the
calculation.
Yeah, I think where the confusion came when we originally submitted, I submitted the original survey, which did not have.
Didn't have the
and the subsequent one that Mr. Clark did in connection with the grading plan had it.
Okay. The architectural plans do not show the existing shed, which is the thing. The engineering plans indicate that the shed is to be removed, is what Krista was saying. The first bullet point in her memo, so.
is the current location permissive?
I mean, it's 96 feet.
The square footage of it, yeah, I mean, it's a
Nice.
permissible size and it's
like
against the
just
setbacks.
about
4 feet
4
off the
feet,
line
yeah.
in the back,
Yeah.
which, you know, I mean, it's within,
It's 4 and 4.
yeah.
It's got to be 4 and 4, so.
We're saying it's conforming, Mr. Clark, you think it's conforming?
Yeah, I mean, you know, by my thinking, it's conforming, it's, 3.8 and 3.9, I guess you could nudge the shed an inch or two, to get to the 4.0, but
Is that being measured from the fence or from the lot line?
from the boundary,
Okay. Who is trying to get you there?
To be safe, should we add a variance just to, I mean,
How old is the shed?
It's not very old, I don't think.
29
Okay, all right.
I actually measured it this morning, and I measured it
I
from
mean,
the.
it's
from the
probably
fence.
4 feet off the fence.
I
or
measured it
more,
off the fence, and it was beyond 4 feet.
And that's probably when it was placed, you know, how it was referenced. It's just
So,
as often the case, is a little bit of difference between where the fence is and where the boundary is.
to be safe, the best course of action would be to recognize it as an additional variance to leave that shed in its current location.
I agree.
That's fine. Does it impact any of the calculations, though?
I think that's included in the calculation.
No, it's included in all the numbers, so in
The
my citation
Krista's
chart.
numbers, I hear
Oh.
for you, yeah, I just want to give you a resolution that includes the appropriate numbers. So the numbers that Krista's referencing as for the variances.
What does she have for
She
the?
has 21.15 for building coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I have 21.1.
Okay. I don't know if that .05 is material or not. I just don't want to screw you guys over here by a couple of square feet.
That would seem to be pretty consistent, though. I mean, if we're down to .05, we're probably talking about the same numbers.
If you're comfortable, this is something, maybe something.
And
to
in
resolve
fact,
in the
Krista's
resolution.
number's a little bit more than mine, so.
Yeah, so, and I think we can add another condition that will consult, the applicants will consult with the zoning officer to confirm the final building coverage figures.
That's not a
for
problem,
purposes
yeah, I
of
can
building
double check
coverage.
that and bounce it off Krista to make sure we're on the same page before the resolutions.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, Dipti, you're good. Any other questions from the board? I haven't seen any neighbors sneak in, so Mr. Clark, I think you can stand down. We got-
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give in this matter, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? And please state your name, spell your last name.
John Lyons, Lyons.
And have you appeared before a board
have.
relatively recently? Any changes?
No, within last year, I've appeared before the board, and my license is still the same, no changes.
Would like to accept you
I
once again?
remember a face, yes. We'll accept you, and also because of your credentials. All right, you may begin your testimony. Great, thank you.
I'd like to start by reviewing the architectural drawings. These are the same drawings that were submitted to the board and that are published on the city website. Starting with drawing A1.1, this is our existing and proposed first floor plan. Seeing the existing first floor plan, as Mr. Stern mentioned, they have an existing deck at the rear of the home. We're proposing to remove that deck, and we're proposing a new screened-in porch that would create an outdoor space for them that would have cover and would have screening to protect against the trees that are in the area, and also to give them more privacy on the deck. That covered porch would then lead out to a terrace adjacent to the screened-in porch. Moving on to drawing A2.1. These are your existing on the top, proposed on the bottom. Existing right side elevations and existing proposed left side elevations. From the right side, you can see the existing deck, which would be removed for in its place, proposed covered screened-in porch. This would be with that door, screen door that leads from the porch out down onto the terrace. And these are the steps on that side. On the left side, you would see the same with the roof, screening. On this side, we do have one panel section that would be a more solid look on that side, and then we show the posts and a lattice where it meets the ground. Moving on, this is drawing A2.0, which is the existing rear elevation and the proposed rear elevation. This is where you can see the existing deck. These are existing sliding glass doors, which are to remain. You would exit those doors and come into the proposed screen porch space. Gable roof on the end, architectural columns, and screening in between. I would like to introduce one exhibit, which is a reference to zoning officer Krista Anderson had a comment. She asked us to confirm in the existing home whether there there's any attic space above 7 feet in the attic.
And just for the record, we'll mark this as A1, and Stephanie will want a copy.
Great. I actually have, this is, we'll mark this as A1 with today's date.
Of all the architectural drawings you've done, I imagine that's one of the simpler ones.
Yeah, it's a beauty.
I could have drawn that one.
I was gonna say.
What we're showing here is we measured an existing attic. And there is actually a very small sliver that's about 16 inches wide where it goes from 7 feet to 7'3" in that space. That counts towards FAR. So we're going to count that. So that's 16 inches wide, and that runs along the ridge line of the hall. So I would ask the board to revise the FAR number. That 1.2, the total FAR being 20, we are on record now at 28.7%. This will push us to 29.0%. It adds 0.3%. The total number is 3,114.24. Just going back to the first floor. And running through some points. We're conforming on all setbacks. As Andrew mentioned, we're substantially under for lot coverage. We're at 32.2, where 35 is required. The added building coverage, it's added building coverage, but it's added FAR. However, it's an open air structure. It's not interior space. It's not heated and cooled. It's a deck with a roof to protect it from the sun and to enclose the space visually. We believe it's also in scale and harmony with the neighborhood. Looking back at the elevation. We feel it actually has some positive impacts, although it does create a variance for the neighbors, because while it could be an open deck structure where noise and visibility are more impactful to the neighbors, this actually creates more of a buffer for sound or light. The roof allows for it to have down lighting that can light the space, as opposed to building mounted lights that tend to project out more and have more of an impact on the neighbors. For the reasons we stated, we believe the relief granted for the proposed covered deck would be without substantial detriment to the public good and will not substantially impair the intent of the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Happy to address any questions.
Any questions? Maybe Dipti, I don't know if you have anything.
I have nothing, thank you.
Members of the board? Thanks for doing that calculation in the attic. That's crazy.
So I hate to be nitpicky about that, but should we ask Krista to verify that?
I would submit this. I think what Krista said was that she'd like it, if the application is approved, construction permit application must provide a building section to verify that there is no attic headroom over 7 feet. So we could submit this as part of that.
Okay.
Go for that, Andy, or do you want to?
We can always just confirm it with a condition as well, that it will be submitted. That way, Krista can confirm those figures, make sure that the final numbers that we note in the resolution are correct.
If I read Krista, if it did include it, she'd push it back to us. So I think we'd have to handle it.
Sorry, what do you say that again?
Well, her comment says, prove that it isn't. If it is, we got to deal with it. She's not going to. We have to.
Right, but just to confirm the
So
final
if we
figures.
deal with it now, it's over.
But we just ask her to confirm the figure.
And let her.
See the updated plan.
Yeah,
and
just like
confirm
my
that the
lot coverage
FAR
numbers,
figure.
it's something we'd want to,
Yeah.
we'd want to memorialize properly and
Exactly.
and confirm with her before doing so.
Sure. You're right in that, I don't know, if they determined that there was either no additional FAR.
So they've determined that there is an
They came
additional
clean, which is
FAR.
great.
Our resolution should confirm the additional FAR, the new number to be confirmed by
Yes,
Krista.
exactly.
Exactly.
Violent agreement, yes.
Yes.
All right, cool. Note again, there are no members of the interested public for this particular application. Deputy's good, the board is good. Mr. Stern, would you like to say anything in conclusion?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Andy, would you run us through the conditions that we've accrued?
Yes, so I have 4. First is our usual compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. Second is that the applicants will consult with the city forester regarding additional screening between lots 1 and 3. Third is that the applicants will consult with the city zoning officer regarding the final building coverage calculation. And fourth is that the applicants will submit the attic plan to the city zoning officer for review and approval.
Okay, largely sounds good. Excellent. Who would like to begin the deliberations with a reminder that because this includes a D variance, Mr. Stern has to bat 1,000 with the board, so no pressure. Joe, want to start us off? What's on your mind?
Now that we solved my 16-inch problem. No, I think it's certainly something that seems to work for the property and for the applicants. I see no negatives to it as far as the neighborhood is concerned. And hopefully it won't cost the auto dealers too much in Lost Avenue for his various accidents going into his driveway. And hopefully we can solve that all in one resolution. So I'm in favor of the application.
Hyman or Tom, anything come to mind for you?
Nothing really to add. I mean, I think it's in keeping with the neighborhood. They're not extensive variances. I'm happy we made a few, technical changes to maybe prevent problems down the road. So I can support it as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I can just add, also in support of this, but this does, the existing house and the way the things that the applicants want to change read as the builder went as far as he possibly could without getting a variance, and this is what the applicants really need in order to make their house livable, so I can certainly support it.
That's right. I'm in everyone saying something. What's on your mind?
I'm okay with this application. It's straightforward. The variances required are minimum, so I do support this.
Thanks, Simon. Yep, I would just echo what my fellow board member said, that the application improves functionality. With the improved functionality, I would also go so far as to say improves the safe ingress and egress of the property in the rear yard, which is positive. It's done in such a manner. I appreciate Mr. Lyons' comments about minimizing the impact for neighboring properties. That is potentially even excluding the additional screening, but the idea that this is a screened-in porch should reduce any encroaching light or noise to a greater degree. And then as Tom suggested, I think it's done in a way, though it is even set in the rear yard, I think the architectural elements suit the design of the home and the neighboring properties, so it's appropriate for the surrounding area. And for all those reasons, and the conditions as noted, I could accept the application. So with that, do we have a motion to accept the application with the conditions as noted?
So moved.
Mr. Millay, second? Claire?
I'll second.
Getting the nod. All right. Stephanie, give us a vote.
Sure. Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Chairman Spur.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Stearns. Good luck with your project. All right. Next, we will hear from Ruth Ann Blankenheim, 26 Edgewood Road. Welcome.
Good
Let them
evening.
go out if you'd like, but,
Back
oh, and we need Stephanie, that's right. Can't do it without her.
She on that road exhibit.
That triangle. They did what they asked for. So.
raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name and spell your last name.
Ruth Ann Blankenheim, B as in boy, Lankenheim.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit about the application. What are you here looking
Okay.
for?
So, good evening and thank you to the members of the zoning board. My name is Ruth Ann Blankenheim. I live at 26 Edgewood Road with my family. We are requesting 2 variances in order to extend our existing hardscape patio by 273 feet. The first variance is for a rear yard setback. We are proposing 14 feet where 35 feet is required. For the right side yard setback, we are proposing 13 feet where 17 is required. Our house at 26 Edgewood Road was built in the late 1920s. Given the lot's topography and irregular shape, the house was built far into to the rear of the lot, resulting in a large setback, and the majority of the lot's yard is in the front. As it was originally built, the existing structure does not currently comply with the zoning regulations of today. It was the same pre-existing condition that brought me here nearly exactly 1 year ago, seeking a variance in order to build a small mudroom, which is now complete and being very well used. Since the mudroom was constructed on top of a portion of the existing hardscape, it was always part of the plan to right size and expand the patio via an extension that I mentioned in my testimony last year. The reason we didn't seek a variance at that time was honestly didn't know I needed one, but also I had told my landscape designer pencils down until I knew what I could build with the mudroom, because I didn't want her to make a design that I had to change again. So if I may, I wanted to hand out a few drawings, or just one drawing, that might answer some questions.
Can you tell us, just to describe the...
Sure. So this is the landscaping plan. Okay. So there were some questions from both the forestry and, person and the environmental person. Okay. And I think this would answer some questions.
Awesome. We're going to mark that as A1 as an
Sure.
exhibit. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So like I said, I think this may answer some questions that were brought up by some of the staff reporting comments last week. So if you look here, this is the existing house. Everything that's shaded in orange is pre-existing patio. Right here you can see the addition that was put on top. Everything that is shaded in green is currently grass, though it is not that green because a lot of these hedges are about 20 feet tall, and so sun doesn't get here at all. So it's usually just a lot of mud. So what we're proposing is to split the difference of that grass. You can see where there's, the landscaping cobblestone, or the bluestone. That's where we will extend the patio. And then what we're also going to do is take some of that grass and extend the planting bed and put shrubs, things that have better root systems and do better in shade and require less water than grass. There's one small area here where we're putting in a pea gravel path, so that is not included in the calculation because it's permeable. But again, nothing grows there. You can see everything that's in a pink color is a new planting that we are adding that is non-native, but they thrive in this area. They're low maintenance. That was specifically our request, is to make it so that it will thrive with not having to water it a ton. And then the blue, there were specific questions asked about our consideration about native plants. So the blue, everything that's in this blue or darker purple color is a native plant. I've also asked my landscape designer to see if she could come up with other substitutes for the pink non-native plants that we can take into consideration. So as long as those are, commercially available, reasonable, and equally low maintenance, which I understand is all the benefit of natives, then we will hope to increase the current 30% native species to non-native species.
Has Mr. Linson, the city's forester, seen this yet? Or this is new?
No, he said he'd had no he was okay with the application. He said a landscaping plan would be nice to see, so.
It was kind of a funny comment.
Yeah.
Nice to see, but the landscaping is deficient, so I wasn't sure where he landed in that. But
I'm not sure
would you
there.
be comfortable with us including as a condition of the application, review and approval of the landscaping plan by the city forester?
I think.
Do you see any objection, any concern about that? Just to
I'm just
square-
trying to think it through before I answer, that's all. I mean, I think it's pretty robust, so I would welcome his comments.
Okay. And typically his comments include, as you're already looking at, replacement of non-native species, things along those lines. Any concerns about screening, but I don't think that's really applicable in this application. But
These plants down here, like I said, are all over 20 feet tall. No one can see any of this but us.
Andy, do we care if this was designed by a licensed landscape architect? Are you representing that this is the plan of a licensed New Jersey landscape architect?
Well, I don't think I would need a landscape architect to, she's a landscape designer. I don't think I need a landscape
Kinda what I'm
architect to
asking.
plant
I don't-
plants.
Right.
Do I care? I mean, I don't
Not
care.
necessarily. If, you know, you're
not-
representing the condition, we acknowledge that this drawing and your coloring is not, you know.
Not perfect, no. This is more of a, let me answer some questions, words don't do as well as pictures.
We don't care. I don't care, but do we care?
No, I don't see a need for official.
It's a very good
architecture.
drawing, so yeah, okay, excellent.
I can only take credit for the coloring,
That's impressive.
which my coworkers might have been curious about why I was using crayons in the morning. I should also note that during my last year's variance, there were questions asked about the fence. We are planning on replacing the fence and correcting it. But that would be settled, I guess, with the permit. So those comments answer those from the city forester and the environmental commission. And then specifically addressing the Collier's engineering and design memo, I hereby provide testimony that there have been no improvements or changes to the property since the date of the survey. I also provide testimony that no existing steep slopes or trees or landscaping will be affected due to this application, except for with the addition of them. Just wanted to make note that there was a correction to the memo made on February 14th. Thank you for turning that around so quickly. We shall maintain all erosion and sediment control measures for the entire duration of construction surrounding the limit of disturbance. No changes are being made to the mechanical equipment since these were in their current location when I bought the property. I can't attest to their compliance, but nothing to the contrary was noted to me during the last variance hearing, and we're not moving them, so. We are aware that if stormwater runoff drainage problems occur on our property or the neighbor properties as a result of the construction, it's our responsibility to remedy that drainage issue. And I also acknowledge the responsibilities outlined in Collier's paragraphs 14, 15, 16, and 18. With that, I've completed my prepared statement, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Very comprehensive. I can tell you've done this before, or you've been here before, I should say. Did anything she miss that you want to call attention to?
She got it up.
All right. As a standard condition of an application, we would ask that you accept the engineer's note as was amended and prepared and updated.
Yep.
Any objection to that?
Nope.
Okay, great. Members of the board, any questions for the applicant? It's pretty straightforward. Joe, anything scratching your head there, puzzling you?
I'm a little concerned about the landscape plan, but I'm not going to rock the boat here.
Okay. Okay, excellent. As folks had heard from previous application, I would note there are no members of the interested public here for this application that have snuck in to offer comments. We have two conditions as noted. Anything you'd like to say in closing, essentially? You've opened and now you can close.
No, just thank you for your time.
Okay, excellent. Andy, remind us, what were the two conditions that were captured?
Usual compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. And second is that the applicant shall submit a landscaping plan to the city forester for review and approval.
It's my responsibility to submit it, or you will submit it and I will get comments?
You will.
I will submit it, okay. Just want to make sure. And his contact information is on the,
Reach out to Stephanie.
Okay.
Make all the magic happen.
and then what happens after that? So I submit it to him and that is the requirement, or?
He reviews and approves.
He reviews again, okay.
And once he gives the go-ahead, then that condition is satisfied.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Who'd like to begin the deliberations?
Well, I will admit, I was kind of scratching my head when I saw this, like, we should have discussed this last year. I can appreciate your explanation, but it might have been simpler. I'll say, when I peered over your fence, it just looked really squashed in the backyard. Though I accept that nobody but you can see what's happening back there, and with vegetation not really growing on the ground, and given the vast amount of open space on your property, that makes me somewhat less concerned about having a patio so close to the rear. I mean, that front yard is pretty amazing.
Thank you. We agree.
So I'm going to be able to support this application.
Tom or Iman, anything catch your eye or you want to know?
No, not really. I mean, I like the landscape work here. Of course, I had some issues that this is not an official drawing, but I understand your position as that. I think that the forester should be looking at it and approving it.
I think so. I have great confidence in Mr. Linson. If he needs some explanation about the either size at time of planting or at a mature state, he'll know that based on the name. I can't tell you for each of these individuals what to expect, or may offer some recommendation on placement or anything else that he knows better than anyone here in this room. So
Sounds like I might get some free advice. It's fine by me.
yeah, he knows his stuff. Cool. Anything you'd like to say, Joe, kind of to wrap us?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, I would just note that it's a relatively de minimis request, looking kind of at the sum of the two resolutions, frankly, the two applications. This is a thoughtful approach to kind of developing this space, taking it kind of a step at a time. We have great faith that Mr. Linson will address any concerns about the allegedly deficient landscaping, and appreciate the ability for DIPTI to address the engineering level clarification. So with the approved functionality, improved use, the minimal impact upon neighboring properties, I could support the application.
I want to ask one legal question of Mr. Ball. When we addressed this a year ago, we had one of the clauses dealt with the driveway encroaching on the neighboring property, and that we received documentation from the neighbor that they were aware of that encroachment. Is there anything more that needs to be done for when that neighbor sells and somebody else buys it? Is there anything we need to do to make sure that neighbor is aware of this, or is that not something we can do, or?
It's not, so I'm just thinking out loud, it's not something that would immediately show up in an ordinary type search. You know, the resolutions of the board are not something that is recorded with the county. So it's not something we're compelled to address. It is something that we dealt with at the time, and we're satisfied with the condition that the neighbors were aware of it. You know, someone doing their due diligence could certainly request copies of the resolution, see the fact that, yes, it's technically encroaching, and deal with it as they deem fit, but I don't see any required action at this point as a result of that.
Okay.
Well, and if I can just jump in, Tom, if the purchasers were to apply for a mortgage, there would be a survey and it would show up on the survey.
Okay, right.
Yeah, we were aware of it.
Okay.
So should we include the same language in this resolution as we did in that one?
Did we include any
Yeah.
language in that one?
Yeah, it just says
We
the
already
applicant.
know that we have
Yeah.
that document, so just reiterate that so it continues.
In
that we
another
recognize it
resolution.
again.
All right, at the time, we required the applicant to contact the neighbor, and it says, prior to drafting this resolution, the board received written confirmation that the neighbors at 36 Edgewood were aware of the encroachments.
Has the neighbor ownership changed since that time?
It has not.
I mean, I don't necessarily see a need for the applicant to contact them again and remind them of the fact that it's encroaching.
No, I don't think Joe, I don't think that was Joe's meant.
You're talking about including it in
I'm saying
this
including the same
resolution.
language that we have here, because it has already happened, and
Just
just having
to
it
note
in
the
both
encroachment.
resolutions.
Recognizing that that previously happened.
Right.
Remains unresolved.
resolve it.
That way, in case one resolution comes up one place and the other one comes up, they're not crisscrossing.
You can certainly note that in the resolution, that that condition remains on the property. But no action about that will be required.
There's work for title companies or something in there.
Who knows who it'll work for, but I'll feel better.
Okay. All right, with the conditions noted, the two conditions noted, do we have a motion to approve this application?
So moved.
Mr. Steiner, a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Yuko, thank you. Stephanie?
Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Chairman Spur.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great.
If you have any questions, though, Stephanie has all the answers.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right. With that, we will move to 47 Parkview Terrace, which I will sadly be recusing. Joe will be
I
accepting.
thought you were, I thought that he's not here, so I thought you were going.
Well, it's
All right.
from his firm, right? So
Okay,
that's the deal.
then we will
They're
go
okay
ahead
You
with,
guys are okay with 4?
We'll ask the applicants. But yes, 4 is
Four is
legally okay.
so we're up to 47 Parkview, right?
This is only
Yeah,
a C,
14.
correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Number 4, Desmond,
Yeah,
and
this got carried.
that's gone.
That's got carried.
Right,
You're
so
down.
we're here. Okay, hi there.
Hi.
He's gonna swear you in,
All right, and
but he's not here, you can't see him.
I'll give you a similar warning to what we did before. You'll see the board membership is dwindling because Steve has to recuse from this matter. There are 4 board members remaining. You only have C variances, which requires a majority of the boards to approve the application. So that means you need 3 affirmative votes in order for your application to be approved. Normally, with a full membership of 7, you would require 4 votes out of the 7.
Okay.
So, just with all that in mind, do you still want to proceed with the application tonight?
Yes, please.
Okay. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Lauren Davis, Davis.
Thank you.
Okay, Ken, why don't you explain why you're here and what this application is about?
I am appearing on behalf of my parents, Desmond and Vivian Randall, as I should, since they are bought a house in Summit to be closer to me and my family, and I think mostly my children. I'm originally from Australia, and so obviously visiting for them has become very taxing. So they have fallen in love with Summit, as did we after moving here about 7 years ago before I had my son. And they can't bear to be apart from their grandchildren, so they bought a house around the corner at 47 Parkview, and they are seeking a variance to widen the garage in order to be able to park their car inside it, especially because they do return to Australia for some parts of the year. It's important for them to be able to keep the car safe and locked away and not on the street or outside. And currently the garage is just quite narrow. I'm going to leave all the specificities, and there were a few questions in the comments about the exact number of feet that we're seeking to expand the garage. I'm going to leave that all to our architect. But, you know, the house needed a little bit of love, so we're doing some other upgrades inside and outside, and one of those was to try and make it a little bit more functional, so that currently there's it's a narrow entrance into the garage and then a very narrow door entrance into the house that has really steep concrete stairs. And both are kind of hard for my parents to use, and you can't quite get the car they currently have in there. So that's why we're seeking the variance.
Okay, questions from Debbie? You have any?
Oh, no, thank you.
Questions from the board members? Okay, now do you have a witness for us?
I do, yes.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and swear you in?
Good evening, board. My name is Nicholas Giuliano.
He's going to swear you in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Nicholas Giuliano, Giuliano.
Thank you, and have you appeared before? this
I
board
have,
before?
but the last time was over Zoom, so this is the first reappearance in person.
Gotcha.
Good to be back.
We'll still count it since that was relatively within recent history. Any changes to your credentials since that last appearance?
No.
before the board? License is still in good standing in
Mhm.
New Jersey?
Correct.
Any Any other questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials once again?
Any questions from anybody? Seeing none, we'll accept your credentials, and please provide us with your input on this application.
So I have the presentation on my laptop, but if everybody has the drawings in front of them, it's probably fine. I don't know that I need this on the screen, if you all don't.
Yeah.
That's your option, but I think the connection is there, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we'll connect.
If you want to use it, otherwise we have them. Is it the one underneath?
Yeah, it should be underneath.
On the podium, I think it's on the, underneath the podium.
Is it a USB?
I believe so.
I don't see a wire that would go into here. But if you have the drawings, we could use
Yeah,
those.
we do have those.
Yeah. Let me just get my
They are
folder
the
out.
same, what you would be referring to as the
Yeah, we
same
have no
as what we're
additional
looking for.
exhibits tonight, so
There
it's
are no
just what was.
changes?
No changes, no exhibits. We have a little bit of, just want to go over some of Krista's comments. She noted some potential additional variances just based on pre-existing conditions. So we'll ask for those as part of the condition of approval. We don't have any contention with her comments. So, I mean, big picture, it's a very unique lot, very difficult to do any work on because of the triangular shape of it. If you take into account all of the required setbacks, the buildable area of the lot is actually smaller than the footprint of the existing house that it's on. So the house itself encroaches into every yard. So widening the garage by about 4 feet, which is what we're looking to increase it by, creates a front yard. And well, we interpreted it as a rear yard setback. Krista's actually viewing it as the side. We have no issue with that, replacing the rear yard variance, if that goes in for the condition of approval. It's an interesting lot in that there's 4 different properties neighboring off of the front of it. You know, there's one on the small side. There's a large one that goes across the back that Krista's viewing as a side, and then there's the other side's neighbor actually comes slightly behind on their lot, so that is technically a side yard. So we're okay with all of those variances that she's listed. And again, as Lauren said, really the reason that we're asking for it is for no more than just to be able to park a car in the garage. Right now, currently, you can't park a vehicle in it and open either doors without hitting the wall. The mass of the garage, we're essentially looking to just continue the roof line that's there. Krista made a comment about how we might achieve that without demolishing the whole garage. We'd essentially just shore up the roof temporarily while we take off the side wall and just extend it in the same plane. There's really no practical way that we could get a side-facing garage on this property, even if we were to demolish it, because of the way the side yard clips towards the back. There wouldn't be enough room to get a driveway into the garage and have room to back a car out. So really, we think the only option for enlarging the garage or making parking more practical is just to slightly widen the one-car garage that's there and give it use for what it's intended for, to park a garage or park a car in it. In addition to the garage widening, we're also asking for a front yard setback to build 2 columns and a portico roof on top of the existing entry stoop that's already there. One of the things that we feel is visually nice about this portico is that it brings a little bit more prominence to the front door and takes away a little bit from the garage, which isn't existing currently. The garage door is almost in the same plane as the front of the house. So by adding the portico, we're kind of formalizing the entry a bit. And the final variance that we had listed on our application was to relocate an existing playset that's in the rear yard. It existed when the owners bought the house. It's actually encroaching onto one of the neighbors' properties right now. The neighbor doesn't have any issue with it, but while we're seeking the variances for the front yard and the garage for the portico, we thought it might be prudent just to go ahead and propose moving that playset completely onto the Randall's property. And with the available room in the rear yard, we would still need a rear yard and a side yard accessory structure setback variance. But we'd at least be able to relocate it so that it's completely on the Randall's property, which we think would be prudent to do right now while we're doing all of the other work. And just going down on Krista's list of comments, I don't know if anybody has that open in front of them. Items 1 and 2 we're in complete agreement with for the front yard setbacks and required for the garage and the portico. The wider garage door facing the street, we're okay with adding that to the list of variances in a conditional approval, just realizing that we can't possibly get a side-facing garage on this property. Moving to number 4, we are okay with 4 and 5 being added as variances in lieu of the rear yard that we had proposed, if Krista deems that that side of the property is in fact a side yard. For number 6 and 7, we are okay with both of those. We just want to note that the patio was existing, when the owners bought the current property. So if there's a variance added for variance relief on that, we're okay with adding it to the list. And for the play structure, I don't know the best way to handle it with Krista would be, we have that the actual proposed setbacks would be 3 feet and 3.3 feet, not 5.5. I don't know if she measured it to a different portion of the accessory structure, but we'd like to have it in the letter that the setbacks are what we calculated them to be from the closest point of the playset to the property line. I think the 5.3 number she put in is kind of to the center of it. It's essentially just 2 triangular end pieces with a middle bar for swings. I think she calculated 1 to the middle of it. We would like to just get it counted for the closest edge of the triangular end portions.
So she has 5.5 feet and 3.3 feet, and you're saying that should be 3.0 and 3.3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone understand that request?
And in her next
Your
line,
drawings say 3.0,
That's what he said.
right?
Yeah.
And she's saying it's 5?
5.5.
I don't understand why it would be.
so I think if you look on the proposed site plan, she, I believe, took the calculation to a more inner point of the playset. We're taking it to the furthest extent of it, to the property line. So it's the same variance, we just would like to have the closer number included.
So you're in effect asking for a greater variance than Krista has identified. You want it closer to the property line than she thinks it is.
Yes.
More of a variance.
I'm just not sure what point on it she calculated it to, but I mean, even graphically, you could see it's 3 and 3.3, from the outermost corners to the side in the rear yard.
The existing place, so you're turning the playset, is that the idea?
We are,
Right now, it's
we're just shifting it
this
further
way,
towards
this
the
way,
front.
Now you're turning it this,
Just shifting it further towards the front. Not rotating it at all.
okay. Looks like it's being rotated.
On the existing
Between
site,
these two.
yeah, if you look on the existing site plan, there's a portion where the meets and bounds cover the existing playset. That's the part that's encroaching onto the neighbor's property.
Okay.
And in the proposed
And now
site
you're
plan,
bringing it- and now you're bringing it 3 feet beyond the.
correct,
There's-
yeah,
There's no fence there or anything that would be,
correct.
okay. Just trying to think that there was something that,
In fact, they kind of have a shrubbery and a bush line that looks like it goes along the property line, but it doesn't. It's well inside their property line, which I think is how the playset ended up in the wrong spot to begin with.
okay. Anything else?
I just wanted to note that in the conditions of approval, if approved, Krista notes that if the applicant so chooses, we could extend the widest portion of the driveway all the way to the street without any additional coverage increases or additional variances. We're not planning to, but if Krista noted it, we would like to have that as part of the conditions of approval if the applicant chooses to do so in the final construction drawings.
Sorry, Can you just repeat that?
Right after line 8 on Krista's comments, she notes that the existing driveway is 17 feet and can be extended all the way from the garage to the street if the applicant chooses. Right now, it kind of narrows into a narrower curb cut as it gets to the street. And if it's possible that we could extend it to the maximum curb cut, like she's saying, without any additional variance or coverage, we would just like to have it as a condition of approval.
So it's not necessarily, if I read her comment correctly, it's saying that there, even if you do that, if you widen it, an additional lot coverage variance would not be required.
Correct.
So it's not something that the board would even need to consider or approve
Right.
if you're permitted to do it.
Mhm.
I imagine you just need to get a building permit
Yeah.
to widen the driveway.
Correct.
So we wouldn't need to condition anything here tonight on
Okay,
that.
great.
Something we don't have to worry about. Okay,
And then the last thing is just in Collier's engineering report, I think they may have just misread the drawings. There's 2 items, number 8 and 9, where they,
on whose?
Collier's engineering report, that they just said that the drawings have the garage addition stated at 152 square feet. It's not. It's listed as 132 on the plans. So I just want to make sure that they have that noted.
Your Collier. Be my guest.
Yes.
Is that- You
Let
agree,
me-
you agree with him?
I will double check.
It's an architectural font, so maybe just glancing at it real quick on the screen, I could see that you might misread it, but we do have 132 listed.
Oh, yes, that is correct.
So you'd agree with him?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing else specific based on the comments. Again, I'd just like to, make mention that we think it's a good improvement because it takes one car out of their driveway and off the street and into the garage when not in use. I think the portico enhances the curb appeal of the home a lot and takes some of the focus away from the garage, puts more of it on a nice front door entry. And I think it's just really practical improvements for them on a very difficult lot, so.
Okay, questions? Tiffany, do you have any from your,
We just always request that there was no changes to your survey of the property since 2022.
No.
That was dated April 11th.
Yeah, everything in the rear yard exists as is, the patio, the deck,
Okay.
walkways.
Okay. Before, when we discussed the driveway extension, you were already increasing the lot coverage about 91 square feet. So if that goes over close to 300 or over, you would require some stormwater improvements.
Correct.
Yeah, so.
any questions from the board?
And we,
Well-
on the fly, kind of come up with a guess of whether we're going to be approaching that 300 square foot figure?
Let me see. I don't know.
I would guess not,
I
just
don't-
based on
I
the,
don't think so. We're looking at it. I don't think so, but if there are any improvements that they plan on doing that increases the lot coverage, I wanted to make sure that was accurate.
Claire?
Oh, this is just my curiosity. And because you're firm often on lots I can only describe as wackadoodle, does a really good job of imposing the building envelope on, the proposed site plan or one of the site plans. And I was just curious what it would look like if it were on this, what the building envelope is.
oh, do you have the elevation drawings? They're on sheet V3 and V4 are the relevant elevations.
Drawings, oh, and they show the building, the building envelope? I mean, if you were to conform with all of your setbacks.
Oh,
How much
yeah.
space do you have to build on? That's something Dave Rosen typically
I'm glad you
gives
asked
us.
because it's one of the biggest thing that I had thought was interesting about this once we dug into the project. If you look on the proposed site plan on V1, Do you see the dash dot line type? There's one of them kind of running right through where it says existing two-story frame dwelling.
Yes.
That triangle that's created by the curve across the front and then the two angles going towards the back patio,
Okay.
those are the yard offsets. One would be a little bit closer to the yard based on Krista's interpretation that the 30 feet going to the back is actually a side yard, but it's still well into the house footprint. So you could see the garage is completely out of the footprint, the existing one of the setbacks.
Okay.
That answers that one. Any other questions from the board? For the record, noting that there is no one in the audience, so there's no one from the public to hear, to ask any questions. I guess we go to, do you have anything to wrap up as the applicant?
I don't thank you for hearing our submission and staying out in this rainy, yucky evening.
Okay, conditions.
Only our usual one is compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum.
And who would like to start off? This side.
Yeah, I'll start. Whenever I get a new application, first thing I look at is Chris's report, and I'm reading through it, oh my God, there are 8 variances. But then when you really get into it, you see that the garage is unusable, the lot is a odd wackadoodle, to take Ms. Toe's word, shape. Very difficult to build anything. Impossible probably to build any kind of decent livable house. So once you really absorb what's going on here, the number of variances really aren't, to me, aren't that bothersome. Really just trying to make a garage usable, and a few other, minor things. So I don't see any negative impact on the neighborhood. I don't think it's an unreasonable application. There are no neighbors here, so obviously none of the neighbors are concerned about it. So I can vote in favor of it.
Anyone else have a comment?
Well, this is definitely an improvement, and certainly the portico enhances the front of the house, also provides shelter for somebody standing outside in inclement weather. And yes, I can certainly vote in favor of this application.
It provides no negative effects to anyone. It certainly improves the property value of the property, which helps the neighborhood. And it's the neighborly thing to do for the neighbors that happen to be related to our applicants. So, and I gather you're acting under power of attorney to them.
Correct.
And I think this makes all the sense of the world for us to move ahead with, and I would support it. Is there a motion?
So move to approve?
Second?
Okay. Roll
Okay.
call.
Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Somebody want to get the chair, he left his coat, so I think he's still here. Otherwise, we can approve the minutes. You're all done. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Can we just confirm
Wait
before
for
we
a month
sign
until
off?
you get your resolution.
We will have a variance for the wider garage facing the street as listed in Krista's.
Yes.
And we'll have the smaller number for the accessory
Yes.
playset. Okay, very good. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Is he still out there? Or did
Yeah.
Okay. Because the only item of business is the minutes, which you can all read while we're waiting for him to come back.
You don't think we read them all already?
If he doesn't get back here in 30 seconds, I'm moving him. Can we move the minutes? Well, you left your coat or I would have finished it.
He sent me a long one, so. Better this way than the other way.
Minutes.
Minutes, February 6th. We have a motion.
Moved.
A second?
Second.
Joe?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay.
with that, I'm happy to bang the gavel, adjourn us, and look forward to seeing everyone on March 6th, 2023.
Oh, boy.